Hey YouTube. So a few years ago I bought this Trooper and it was an automatic. Transmission went bad on me, so I had to look up how to do a manual swap and do the automatic to manual conversion. Not a whole lot of videos out there, so I'm gonna try to run you through it and see how it goes. So the first part is, does the manual transmission fit? As you can see, I cut out I guess the bracket for center console, cut out the center console. I had no modification to the body. The hole where the automatic shifter goes through, the manual one fits just fine. As far as the modifying of the Trooper, not a lot had to be done to the body, but what did have to be done is where the cross member goes. So on the automatic, the cross member mount is right here. On the manual, the cross member mount is under this body mount. So I had to fabricate a plate that goes from where the automatic cross member bolts up and shift it forward to where the manual would bolt up. At the junkyard, people cut the mounts off and then they weld them on to under that body mount right there. And as you can see, there is a bolt that goes all the way through. So basically, one flat plate goes onto the 4 holes for the automatic, and I just shifted everything up with that plate to bolt on the cross member for the manual. It's the same cross member, but you're going to have different areas, different bolts, I guess, like riv nuts for the skid plates and stuff. So you also have to worry about your exhaust. This is the automatic exhaust. The muffler shop did a new crossover though. So that is a new crossover piece. They just cut a hole in the pipe right here and made the crossover different. And as you can see, they did weld up where the old crossover was right there. And they just cut a hole later in the pipe and put the crossover or more towards the rear after the transfer case. So your exhaust won't line up unless you get a manual exhaust. Also, the drive shafts are different. They go into the transmission differently. I believe one bolt's on and the yoke is at a different spot. So you need the rear drive shaft, you need the front drive shaft. You don't necessarily need the cross member unless you want to bolt up the skid plates. The cross member is the same. There are the captive or the Zerk fittings or the rib nuts right there. Those are different. So the skid plates bolt up differently. That's just the oxygen sensor out of there. The wiring isn't that hard. It's just where the automatic shifter goes in from neutral and park. You can start the car. I just wire it up so that you can always start it. You don't have to have the clutch pressed in or anything. But that mount for the cross member does go through. I think there was a skid plate bolted up right there. I just used a longer bolt. It was a factory bolt. Put a spacer in there and some spacers on the bottom, and it does bolt up to the body. So there is this plate that holds the cross member forward now. That's the main part of what you need to do, is make a plate like this. Other people on the Isuzu Trader forums or Isuzu Mafia, they do it differently, but this was the simplest. You just do a plate literally just a few inches wide, bolted up, and then drill holes for this mount, and that's it. Not too difficult. All right, this is a 2.8 V6, and the wiring for the swap is all done right here. So normally the car, if it's an automatic, it'll only start if you have it in neutral, or it'll start if you have it in park. So I removed a bunch of wires that are on this plug over here. Sorry, I was not actually looking at the screen. This plug right here is for the transmission. This is your range selector. It tells the car, all right, you know, it can start in park, or it's not going to start because it's in first gear, or it's in drive, whatever. But basically, I don't know exactly why I left the blue and the green at the time, but the giant red and the giant yellow, those are connected together. I believe that was the main part of tricking it to make sure that it will start. Just be careful, because if you have it in gear, you put the shifter in gear, first gear, second gear, third gear, reverse, fourth, whatever, the car will start without pressing the clutch. You know, we want to get this thing to start, but they will fail you for a safety inspection if you have to do that. You know, my car is antique tagged. It doesn't have to get safety inspected, so I'm not really worried about that. But it will start in gear. I'm gonna put that back how I had it and put some electrical tape on there. But the yellow and the red, connect those. I think I just cut out the other wires. I'd have to follow and trace it back for what the green and the blue do, but that's the main part to get it to start. Also, I didn't cover it in the last parts, but you need the clutch pedal, you need the master cylinder, you need obviously the slave cylinder that's on the transmission, you need the clutch, you need the flywheel bolts, you need all those things that are different, you know, from an automatic to a manual. The automatic has a flex plate, a torque converter. The manual has the flywheel, the clutch. So you need all the hardware for that. You need at least the clutch pedal and the bracket to bolt that into the interior. And what I like to do, I've done this on a few different cars now, is take the manual brake pedal. It's a lot, you know, it's shaped like a clutch pedal. It's not the bigger automatic brake pedal. You don't have to take the bracket out. You just unbolt the pedal from the bracket and use that. So unbolt the manual pedal and bolt that into your vehicle, just the actual brake pedal itself. You will need the clutch pedal, you'll need the bracket and all the, you know, the master cylinder, whatever kind of clutch line you want to use, whether you want to use a custom one. I use a factory one. So just make sure whatever donor vehicle you get the transmission from, the drive shafts, you also get the pedal. I believe that's covers most of it. The difficult part that took the longest was making the brackets for the driver's side, the passenger side, just to make the mount, because the automatic transmission is a different length. So the cross member sits a little more to the rear, and then just making that cross member sit forward more. And there's a few members on there on the Isuzu forum. They do it differently. So whatever avenue you want to do is easiest, whether you weld it or do what I did, just make two flat plates of metal. That's all it is, really, just in the right shape with the holes in the right spots. So hopefully this helps somebody who's looking to do an automatic to a manual on a Trooper. Mine's a first gen, but also the 92 to 94s, I believe it's really similar in all the steps. So thanks for watching. You know, I don't care if you like or subscribe, just want to help share the knowledge that I have.